We're 3 weeks away from Pesach, a little bit less already. So we want to start preparing and learning for Pesach. And preparing for Pesach is not just scrubbing the floors. That's the external part of the preparation, which even with that, one should not go crazy. And a lot of people, they become fanatic and they literally peel walls and move cabinets and go too crazy. It's good to clean for Pesach. It's good once a year to clean the house. But the real cleaning is inside. And the real chametz that we have to be afraid of in Pesach is the spiritual chametz that is surrounding my neshama and not the chametz that is behind my fridge. Of course, we have to clean the house. I'm not giving you a discount right now. We have to clean the house, and we should not have one speck or one crumb of chametz in our house in the physical level, because that will affect and manifest into the spiritual level. But the real cleaning for Pesach has to be within me. I have to understand what's the concept of Pesach. Why am I celebrating it? We're not only celebrating it because it says in the Torah, and not only because 3,300 years ago the Jews left Mitzrayim. There's a Yetziat Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt in the spiritual level. Everything that happens in the physical world, it's originated in the spiritual world. So I want to be 100% prepared and ready for this holiday, because it is one of the most powerful holidays that we have in our calendar. And if I prepare myself the right way, I can benefit this unbelievable freedom, so to say. It's called Chag HaChirut, the holiday of freedom. And that can only be acquired if I prepare myself the right way. Now Pesach, besides the halachot that we have to learn in it, and Bezrat Hashem, next week we're going to start learning about laws of Pesach, because they're very, very important. I don't think we're going to have enough time to really cover everything, but at least we can cover important things to know, because Pesach, the prohibitions in Pesach are very severe. We spoke before about the sins that fall under the category of karet. Eating chametz on Pesach, that is karet. So knowing the laws about chametz are extremely important, especially when you know about it. If you were born in Zimbabwe and you have no idea about anything about Judaism, that's a whole different thing. But since we know about Pesach, then it's important that we know everything and that we follow it. It's important to know all the laws of Pesach, because since we are observant Jews, one little mistake is extremely severe, especially in the holiday of Pesach. With other holidays, with other things, it's not as severe. But in Pesach, the prohibitions are as severe that they fall under the category of karet, and we want to make sure that we're not making any mistakes here. So it is important, whether you do it here or whether you do it by yourself, that you do learn as much as you can the laws of Pesach, and make sure also your husband knows that, because you want to know all the little details in the halachot. That's going to be done in different classes that we're going to have Bezrat Hashem till Pesach. I want to more prepare myself spiritually for this unbelievable week, that I can derive so much energy and benefit for the rest of the year, that really the motion of Pesach is called Yetziat Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt. We mentioned many times that Egypt might be a country 600 kilometers south from here, but the Mitzrayim that we're talking about comes from the word Meitzar. Meitzar is a limit, something that limits me. And when I go out of Mitzrayim, I go out of my limitation. And our sages say, B'chol dor v'dor, chayav adam lirot atzmo kilu yatsa miMitzrayim. Every generation, a person has to see himself like as if he left Egypt. The Baal HaTanya says, no, a person have to see himself going out of Egypt every day. Every day, I have to find myself meditating on the concept, how am I going out of my limitations today, that where I am today, I'm much better than yesterday. So my limitations can be in my spiritual level, in my physical level, in my emotional level, I'm a creature that is constantly battling my limitations. My limitations can be in just battling my emotions. A person can be having problems with anger. That's his limitations. He can't control his anger. A person can be constantly depressed and sad, can go out of his limitations. That's something that limits him. I can be now addicted to cigarettes or addicted to cookies or coffee or whatever it is. That's my limitation. And it sounds like maybe something's very, very simple. But if I can't go one day without 5 kilos of rogalach, I have something that limits me right now. And it might sound like something very simple, and it's only a few cookies. But if I can't go one day without my little fix, that's something that limits me. It doesn't matter what size it is. It can be something very small, can be something very big, can be physical, can be emotional, can be spiritual. The reality is that we're all battling a bunch of things that limit me. And the way I know that limits me, that I can't go without it, or that I'm depending on it, or that it's controlling me. When I became religious, I was a very, very heavy smoker, and I could not stand the fact that a little stick full of nicotine or tobacco is controlling my life. So, Baruch Hashem, Hashem made a miracle, and soon after I quit smoking. But I could not fathom the concept that I'm now a slave to little sticks of tobacco. And if I don't have it, then I'm not at ease. That's not normal. And that's with everything. And if I'm depending on something that I cannot function, that's not natural and it's not normal. The only thing that I should and can have an addiction to is only the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that I could not live without it. That's the only thing that I can say and of course in a joke, that I can be addicted to. Is Torah, mitzvot, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That if I don't learn Torah for one day and I start getting all uptight, that's a good thing. But anything else that controls me or controls my life, that it takes me out of my own comfort zone, then this is not good. That's something that limits me. So it can be something physical, like a cigarette, like coffee, like alcohol, like cookies, like anything else, that I cannot go one day without it. And it can be something emotional, that I can't control my anger. I can't control me being jealous at everything that moves. I can't control my depression, my sadness. So, in essence, we all are stuck in Mitzrayim. And again, Mitzrayim is not necessarily the country, it's a state that I'm stuck in. The Jews that were in Mitzrayim, Bnei Israel, they were stuck in slavery. I gave a very long lecture last year defining what was that slavery. Because in the physical world, they were carrying bricks and making the bricks with the straw and building stuff and doing slavery work. That's the physical part. But the spiritual part was that they were stuck, their state of mind was stuck somewhere. And that's our problem, that we're stuck in this Mitzrayim. I can be a very religious Jew with a very long beard and very black suit, and I'm still stuck in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. And I'm stuck and I'm in states of limitation that I'm not able to leave from. And I will be, so to say, addicted to something. Addicted is not the right way to use a word to use. I don't like the word addiction. Rather, I'm slave to the power of the Klippah. The Klippah has control over me. Klippah is a negative energy that has the ability to control me if I let it control me. And if I'm now, so to say, addicted to something, I'm not addicted to it. The Klippah has control over me. This is called, in the Kabbalistic terminology, that the Klippah has shlita, has control over me. And I'm like paralyzed, I'm like a puppet, and the Klippah can literally move me, and it will control me. And this can come in a physical way and also in an emotional and spiritual way. So Pesach has the ability to break this Klippah. That's really what happened in Yetziat Mitzrayim. That the Kadosh Baruch Hu himself came down and broke the Klippah, the power of impurity. So every year when I celebrate Pesach, I don't only do that to commemorate the fact that they left Mitzrayim. Rather, I'm able to tap into this energy that comes down on the 14th day of Nisan, and it continues on the 15th day of Nisan. And the ones who are less lucky and they live outside of Israel, they have an extra day to tap into it. And not because they're getting an extra day, because the power is spread over 2 days, where we can get it condensed here in Israel for 1 day. And in the diaspora, it's not so powerful, then it's smeared to the next day. But in general, I have 7 days. I can look at it as 8 days with the Achron Shel Pesach, that I have an 8-day Black Friday to tap in. Black Friday, for the non-American crowd, in America, there's a day, it's called Black Friday, where you get everything for 80-90% off. That's I don't even know why they call it a Black Friday. It's usually in November, and you can literally get everything for 90% off, 80% off, and everybody waits. People do their shopping once a year. So we get that in our holidays, in our festivals. And we have 8 days in Pesach that I can tap in to this unbelievable energy that will allow me to gain this benefit, this power, to go out of my Mitzrayim. Because every day I have to battle my Mitzrayim. If I have an issue with anger, and I can control my anger, I just can't control it. Every day I need to battle it. So today I was able to control it once. 10 times I lost my anger, 1 time I was able to control it. Today I was able to go out of my Mitzrayim, out of my limitation. And my avodah, my repetition should be that tomorrow I will burst 8 times, but twice I will be able to hold my anger. And this is one example out of many. It can be with sadness, can be with depression, can be with jealousy, can be with judging another person. The point is that I have to recognize my limitations. If I cannot recognize what limits me, then I'm already stuck so deep in my Mitzrayim that I don't even know what's my limitation. That's even a worse situation. So, Bezrat Hashem, we will go in the next 3 weeks as much as we can into many different areas how to prepare for Pesach, because when I prepare the right way, then in the 8 days of Pesach I can be very focused on what I need to do and not get overwhelmed by the cleaning and not say, oh great, I have a whole week of Chol HaMoed and every day I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Chol HaMoed is a very good time to travel and to be with the family, but I want to concentrate on what I can derive in those 8 days. Why do I want to do that? Because for the next year after that, I will have enough power and energy and tools to deal with my Mitzrayim, with my limitation for the rest of the year. So this is my Black Friday, when I can get a coupon that with my daily battle to go out of my limitations, that's when I, so to say, pump all the energy in that week. And how do I do that? By knowing how to prepare in order to be focused those 8 days. So the next 3 weeks, Bezrat Hashem, we will learn a lot about Pesach, mainly because if I'm able to reach my personal redemption, my personal Yetziat Mitzrayim, I'm affecting the entire world to go out of the exile that we're in. Because if enough people will be able to go out of their own limitation and live a level of freedom, of redemption, of what's called Geulah, it does affect the entire world to go out of its exile. So I don't want to look at it only in my personal level that I'm going to be out of my misery, so to say. Rather, I'm going to be able to affect everybody. If I live in my own exile, I cannot affect the world. If I live out of my exile, if I redeemed myself, so to say, I will able to live in the level of redemption, of Geulah, then I can affect the world to also enter into this realm of redemption. So, one thing that we want to talk about today is one of the mitzvot of Pesach, and that's called Korban Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach, which we don't do now because we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, but that is the first mitzvah that they got. Now, we're going to go back a few weeks in the weekly parashot, and if you remember, in the parasha that is called Bo, it's talking about the last 3 plagues of the 10 plagues. And that was the locust, the arbe, the choshech, the darkness, and makat bechorot, the firstborn, the death of firstborn. Now, in this parasha, it's talking about 2 mitzvot that we got. Now, in general, if you notice, in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, there's only 3 mitzvot that we got. The rest of the mitzvot, they start in Sefer Shmot. In Sefer Bereshit, we got the mitzvah of pruvo, of multiplying and procreating, the mitzvah of circumcision that Avraham Avinu got, and the mitzvah, the prohibition of eating what's called gid hanasheh, the vein, not the vein, the nerve that we have in the leg in the bottom, gid hanasheh. These are the 3 mitzvot that we have in the book of Bereshit. In the book of Shmot, that's when we start getting all the mitzvot. The first 2 mitzvot that we got as a nation, we got it in this parasha, not this week, the parasha that we're talking about, Bo, where it's talking about the plagues and the leaving of Egypt. And these are 2 mitzvot that we got as a nation, and one of them is sanctifying the month, what's called Kiddush HaChodesh, and the other one is Korban Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach. So these are the 2 mitzvot that are surrounding the beginning of going out of Egypt. So again, it's Kiddush HaChodesh, what we sanctify, what we call right now Rosh Chodesh. It's a big mitzvah. It's a very special day. In essence, the root of Rosh Chodesh is a much higher root than all the festivals, more than Sukkot, Shavuot, and Pesach. The reason why we don't stop from working on that day comes from a different place, but the root of Rosh Chodesh comes from a much higher place. And the Korban Pesach, it's a very sophisticated mitzvah. First of all, we don't do it yet, but if you notice, there are 4 dates that come with that mitzvah. On Aleph Nisan, the first day of Nisan, they were commanded to do the Korban. On the 10th day of Nisan, that's when they took the sheep and they tied it to the bed, if you remember the story. On the 14th day of Nisan, that's when they barbecued it. They had to barbecue it to completely burn it. And on the 15th day of Nisan, that's when they ate it. They ate the Korban Pesach. So in this mitzvah, we see already 4 dates, 4 stages into this mitzvah. These 2 mitzvot, Kiddush HaChodesh and Korban Pesach, the root of them is a very strong root, the foundation of something that we all lack, and this is called emunah. These 2 mitzvot are the basics, the foundation of our emunah. And I mentioned that in a couple other classes, and don't get me wrong and don't get upset at me, most people don't have emunah. Most of us, we don't have belief. We have a very small speck of dust or spark of belief, and we don't really believe. It's deep in our neshama that we have emunah, but it doesn't reflect outside, because if I had 100% emunah, then I would be dancing all day long in the street. My problems wouldn't be problems. My challenges wouldn't be challenges. Nothing would be wrong. Everything is good from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I would be 100% connected to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, because my emunah would be Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was not depressed. And Yitzchak didn't take Xanax. And Yaakov didn't need a psychologist. And I'm not saying it in a not nice way. I'm just saying that their emunah was so powerful, nothing moved them from their emunah. Our emunah is so little that something small happens in my life and I get depressed, and I get overwhelmed, and I get sad, and I get thrown from side to side, that I don't know how to function even. That's a result that my emunah is not solid. Because if my emunah would be solid, I wouldn't be considering anything as bad news. Everything would be great news. Came from Hashem, it's good news. And I would never even think of chas v'shalom doing something against the Torah, against the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Needless to say, I would be the happiest person in the world, because if you have emunah, there's no such concept of sadness, depression, anger, or anything else. Because I have emunah, I believe in the Kadosh Baruch Hu 100%. So the reality is that I'm not saying it in a not nice way. Don't think I'm chas v'shalom saying it in a hurtful way, but we don't have really emunah. Our emunah is dug deep down in our neshama. That's why emunah is. I mentioned many times how we lose our emunah, with the analogy that I gave you with the baby that it gets born. He has 100% emunah. He doesn't ask questions. The mother gives him something to eat. He doesn't ask her if it's badatz or if it's mehadrin. He just eats it. Why? Because he has 100% emunah in his mom. Later on in the baby's life, the parents start lying to the baby, the siblings lie, the teachers lie, everybody lies to that person. By the age of 12, 13, 14, the person has lost his belief in the world because everybody lies to him. If you take an experiment now and put a child on a deserted island and never lie to that child, you'll see that their emunah is going to be solid like a rock. And we get lied to all the time. My parents lied to us. When I was 2 years old, when I was 3 years old, my parents lied to me because they told me if I don't fix my room, I'm not going to get dinner. And then I didn't fix my room and I still got dinner. So in my child's mind perception, my mom is a liar because she lies to me all the time. So I'm not saying it in a negative way, I'm just telling you why we lost our emunah. Because my parents lied to me, then my teachers lied to me. Why? And why? Because that's how people operate. And if you want to take one good thing out of it in regards to chinuch or parenthood, don't lie. That's the worst thing one can do, is lie to their children. When you lie to the children, you're basically damaging their pillar of emunah. That's why it's not only to my children, anyone. When I lie to a person, and then they find out that I lied, because you cannot get away with it. There's no such a thing that the lie will be hidden. Lies always come up to the surface. They float. They don't sink into the ocean. Lies always come out. You can't get away with lies. It will always somehow will pop up. And then when the person finds out that you lied to them, you can take now a marriage. It will be perfect till the first lie. Once the first lie comes out in this marriage, now the whole marriage is already shaken. And that's one example out of many. In any relationship, you can have a relationship with a rabbi, with a teacher, with a neighbor, doesn't matter what. The first lie that comes up to the surface, 90% of the trust in this relationship is out the window. That's why lying is one of the worst sins in the Torah. Because Hashem is saying, you're taking my reality and you're distorting it. How dare you take my reality and distort it? That's a lie. So we are all lacking emunah because somebody lied to me too many times. These two mitzvot of Korban Pesach and Kiddush HaChodesh, Rosh Chodesh, is the shoresh, is the root of emunah. Which means that if I can backtrack into this mitzvah, I can pull out the emunah out of my system. Now, there is a machloket, an argument in the Gemara. When was the world created? Was the world created in Tishrei, or the world was created in Nisan? Nisan is the month that we're going to go into in a few days. And if you were present in the class we had about Adar not too long ago, then I mentioned that there are 4 Rosh Hashanah. We actually learned that in the class also about Tu B'Shvat. The Rosh Hashanah for the month is Nisan, the head of the year of the month. And I mentioned it in the class about Adar because I told you that Adar is the last month in the biblical calendar. So Nisan is the next coming month. There's a contradiction in the Gemara, that's in Tractate Rosh Hashanah, that one Tana, Rabbi Eliezer, says the world was created in Tishrei, like we know. I mean, there's even a contradiction on that because we know that the world was created in Elul, and Aleph Tishrei is Friday when Adam HaRishon was created. But there's different arguments right now. In this argument, Rabbi Eliezer says the world was created in the month of Tishrei, and Rabbi Yoshua says the month was created in the month of Nisan. The Arizal comes and says there's no machloket here. There's no argument. They're both right. Why? Because the physical world was created in Tishrei, and the neshama, the spiritual part of the world, was created in Nisan. So for half a year the world was running without a neshama, without a spiritual power, and in Nisan the spiritual, the neshama, came into the world. So both opinions are right. That's what the Arizal comes and says. You can find it in Sha'ar HaKavanot. In Sha'ar Rosh Hashanah. You asked before about she left. About the books of the Arizal. I told you it's all Sha'arim, gates. In the gates of Rosh Hashanah, that's what the Arizal says. There's no such a machloket. The machloket is not a machloket. The world was created, the physical part in Tishrei, and the neshama got in Nisan. Now, What does that got to do with us? It means that on Rosh Hashanah, when I celebrate Rosh Hashanah, I'm celebrating the physical part of it. But on Aleph Nisan, I'm already celebrating the spiritual birth of the world. That's why on Aleph Nisan, first of all, what do I celebrate on Aleph Nisan? Rosh Chodesh. It's a very special Rosh Chodesh. More than that, the Korban Pesach was commanded on Aleph Nisan. So it's not next week. I mean, this week, this Shabbat will be Shabbat Mevarchim already. Next week, we already have Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So that in itself, you should have already the right preparation for that special day. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan is a very powerful day. We have the concept of both of these mitzvot, of Rosh Chodesh and the beginning, the commandment of Korban Pesach. Now, I want to know how is that relating to me, because I want to pull now the level of emunah from the depth of my neshama. So in Rosh Chodesh, the foundation, I told you that the foundation, the yesod of emunah comes in Rosh Chodesh and in Korban Pesach. In Rosh Chodesh, if you take the word Chodesh, comes from the word Chadash. Chadash is new, a rebirth. Hitchadshut, what's so to say. And we know, based on the Arizal, that the creation is renewing itself every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds, the Arizal has a calculation how he brings it down. But we know, I mean, David HaMelech teaches us, and we say it every day in the book of, and when we pray Shacharit. And in the book of Tehillim, he says, "U'v'tuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit." We mention it twice when we pray Shacharit. What does it mean? In his great kindness, he recreates the world every day. The Arizal brings down a calculation, and he says the creation is being renewed every 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds, the entire world is being renewed, meaning that everything is brand new. Where do you really see this motion of renewing, of what's called hitchadshut? Where do you really see it? In a very clear way? In kids. Why? Because you can take now the toy from a kid, and the kid is going to go bonkers. He's going to lose it. Screaming on the floor, making a whole tantrum. Going completely crazy. You think the kid is possessed. Take now a piece of plastic. Take a little piece of plastic and give it back to the kid. Back to the same kid. Everything is relaxed. 2 minutes ago, he was crazy. Now you gave him a piece of plastic, a toy, or some a lollipop, goes back to the original. This is called hitchadshut, a rebirth. Because a minute ago, he was crazy. And a minute later, he's totally normal. I mean, you can see that again in a person that chas v'shalom maybe has schizophrenia or bipolar. 1 second here, 1 second here. And the thing is that it's not about now pointing on what you see hitchadshut. The point is to understand that there's constantly the concept of rebirth. Now, if I'm able to get myself to the point of rebirth, then I'm able to pull this level of emunah out of me. The point is that I don't see any rebirths in my life. I kind of go through my life and I feel that I'm going through one level. I do not understand that I can pull out a level of rebirth. Now, in essence, we are commanded to constantly pull out this motion of hitchadshut, of rebirth, in me. If I don't know to recognize it in me, or don't know how to pull it out, then I'm living a very flat, so to say, life. Now in Nisan, this power of rebirth is very, very powerful, very dominating. That's why you see that even spring starts in Nisan. Everything starts blooming again. The trees start blooming, the flowers start growing. Why? Because in Nisan, the motion of rebirth, I rather say hitchadshut, because hitchadshut is a renewing. That's when it's most powerful. That's why we see that even our sages, they gave us a very special mitzvah of blessing the trees. We can go out and we have to find a certain tree, and a lot of people, a lot of congregations, they make a whole thing out of it. I know some congregations here, they will drive out to a farm and they make a whole party out of it. Some people do it in a very simple way, but some people I know they take it very serious. But why is that? Because in Nisan there's a higher potential, so to say, a much more revealed way to tap into this koach ha'itchadshut, the power of renewal. I don't know if you would say renewity, but even though the world gets recreated, so to say, there's ha'itchadshut every 3 seconds, and everything in my life, even if you look in my body, every 7 years, all my cells in my body are completely different. Every 7 years, it's a completely different body. Every 7 years, all my cells get renewed. Not every 7 years, but in a cycle of 7 years, all my cells in my body get changed. So that's why when somebody once asked me about tattoos, then, I have tattoos, and a lot of people have tattoos, unfortunately. And the sin is not to carry that tattoo. The sin is to put the tattoo on. Once a person tattooed himself, that's it. The sin is done already. So when a lot of people told me, how come you still have your tattoos? Then of course I would want to get rid of them. It's just very expensive. Very expensive and very painful. But for many years, when I became religious and I went to my rabbi, he told me, just don't worry about your tattoos right now. And many years later, I came back to him and I told him, that I read in a book by the Gaon Chida, was known to be very big Mekubal, that he says it's not good to have a tattoo. And I went to it's not my rabbi, the rabbi that I go for questions in halakha, and I told him, you told me 10 years ago not to worry about it. So he says, okay, that was 10 years ago. Now, if you can get rid of them, get rid of them. Why? The Gaon Chida says that when I put a tattoo on my hand, then all the cells in my body will get renewed, but the cells where the tattoo is on. Which means that in the growth of my nefesh, we just learned now in Shar Gilgulim about the level of nefesh, to finish a refinement of the level of nefesh, it cannot have a tattoo. The nefesh cannot get elevated to the next level when the body has a tattoo on it. So in the spiritual level, better to somehow get the money and remove the tattoo. So why am I telling you that? Because our body gets renewed constantly. There's constantly the motion of hitchadshut, and if chas v'shalom a person has a tattoo, the place where the tattoo is will not going to be a hitchadshut on that part, which means that there is going to be some type of a stain, so to say, on the nefesh where the tattoo was on. So it's not a sin to carry the tattoo. But I'm talking now beyond...
Personal question, did you get rid of yours?
Not yet, we're still...
You can strengthen the parts around.
Yeah.
Such a high level that it doesn't...
100%. But I'm talking about going way beyond the letter of the law. When a person really wants to go the extra mile, better not to have the tattoos. I just don't have the money to do it. It's very expensive. I don't...
Heard that'll do it,
I heard that some people do it for free.
Forget about the money. It's very, very bad.
It's painful.
And then you also doing surgery.
How much more painful can it be than getting it?
Oh, it's pretty painful to remove it. Now I know there's new technology, but there's not a class about tattoos. So, when I went to my rabbi, he told me, don't worry, Mashiach is going to come and whoop, the tattoos are going to be evaporated off your body. So, the point is not to learn about tattoos right now. The point is to understand that our body gets renewed all the time. There is the concept of hitchadshut. Constantly there's this concept of hitchadshut. So, we're going to sidetrack now, we're going to leave this concept, and we're going to move now again to Korban Pesach. Now, why really, I'm sorry that I'm skipping now to Korban Pesach, but you'll see at the end where the Rosh Chodesh and Korban Pesach, they get connected to each other. Going back to Korban Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach, on the first day of Nisan, on Aleph Nisan, they were commanded to take the sheep or the lamb or the goat. It can be one of the two. It can be either a sheep, keves, or a goat. The commandment was to take it, and on the 14th day of Nisan to tie it to the bed. Excuse me. On the 10th day of Nisan to tie it on the bed. Why was it tied for 4 days? Because at the time, the sheep was the idol worship of the Egyptians. And that was a very scary thing, to take a sheep now and tie it, and the Egyptians would be like, hey, what are you doing with my God? And they would tell them, we're about to slaughter it in 4 days, and we're going to barbecue it, and then we're going to eat it. So that was a very scary thing to do, because that was their God. It wasn't that they took anything else, but their God. So the point that they did that is to overpower their fear. We have a problem in our life that is called fear. And we are afraid of things. I'm not talking about being afraid of a mouse. I'm talking being afraid. I have fears in me. And if I don't control my fears, then it will manifest into deeper fears of anxiety, that I'm afraid of nothing. Why are you afraid? I don't know. But we have many different types of fears. Fears of abandonment, fears of losing control. We're controlled a lot in our life by fear. And fear is only one thing. It's a damage in emunah. If I have fear, it means that there's a pgam, there's a damage in my emunah, in my belief. If I have a strong belief, Avraham Avinu did not fear anything. They told him, we'll throw you, Nimrod told him, I'll throw you in the fire. Throw me. I'm not afraid of fire. Anything that they were threatened with, I'm not afraid. I have Hashem. So a person that has any type of fear, then that's a strong hole in the emunah. A very big part of the foundation of the emunah has a problem there. So they were commanded to take the sheep, tie it to the bed, to be threatened now by the Egyptians, to overcome their fear. That's why they did that. Now when they were able to overpower the fear, what did they do? They took the minister of Mitzrayim and they tied him also in the heavens. Because we know everything in this world has a minister. The Arizal explains to us that everything in this world, every creature, every animal, every country, every nation has a minister. It's called Sar. And the minister is in Shamayim. So if there's something evil in this world, there's a minister in Shamayim. Every animal has a minister. Some of you maybe know there's a certain thing that we read, and it's called Perek Shirah. Perek Shirah is a very small thing that we read. It has 6 chapters. Many people have the custom of reading it every day. I can tell you that it's extremely, extremely powerful. The mystery here that nobody knows who compiled it. Nobody knows who compiled it. It has verses from Tehillim, from prophets, from Shir HaShirim, from Tanakh, and it's the song of creation. It's very short. It takes 5-10 minutes to read. It's very, very powerful. The Arizal says it's one of the most powerful things to read. Then the reality is we don't know who compiled it. Nobody knows who compiled it. Some people say David HaMelech, some people say Shlomo HaMelech. We don't really know. All we know is that the Arizal explains that every day all the creation sings in Shamayim. And the birds sing, the animals sing, the fish sing, the stars, the moon, the trees, everybody they're singing to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And in order for them to sing their song, the human being, man, has to read this Perek Shirah. And if man reads this Perek Shirah, the entire songs of creation can praise the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it's very short. For many years when I was in yeshiva, my minhag, my custom was when I'm walking home from yeshiva to the home, I used to recite it. And at some point I already knew how to do it off by heart. I would walk in the street and just mumble the entire Perek Shirah. I can tell you it takes 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's very short. It tells you which creature or which creation has which verse in the Tanakh or Ktuvim or Shir HaShirim. So the Arizal explains that everything in this world has a sar, has a minister. Now, if I give the minister energy, then the minister can do its work and to control what it needs to control in this world. But me, as a human being, has the control over it. So when I overpower my fear, or so to say, when the Jews in Egypt overpowered their fear by tying the lamb, the sheep, to the bed, they were able to tie the sar, the minister of Mitzrayim, which was mamash coming from Klippa, in Shemaim. They were able to overpower it. And that the Zohar explains that they were able to control the minister of Mitzrayim by controlling their fear. That comes from the Zohar. Now, how do you overpower your fear? We all have fears. Now, I'm not talking about now anxieties that you wake up in the middle of the night. I'm not talking about anxieties that, my life is too hard and I'm being overwhelmed. Talking about a fear. Sometimes we have a certain fear and we don't know how to control it. How do I control my fears? Because, first of all, you have to understand that when I have fear, the Klippa gets power from my fear. So the Klippa will come and present a situation that is scary, so to say, that I will have fear. Why? Because the Klippa feeds off it. It feeds off my fear. Now, how do I control my fear? Is by working on my midot. When I sit at the end of the day and do Kriyat Shema L'Amita, if you follow my classes, you see that I'm fanatic about Kriyat Shema L'Amita. Constantly do Kriyat Shema L'Amita, Kriyat Shema L'Amita. Why? Because forget about the spiritual aspect of Kriyat Shema L'Amita. And the physical aspect of Kriyat Shema L'Amita is that I sit down, exactly like you're sitting now with your notebooks, and I write down what I did today. And I sit down in a very honest way, and I say, I lied 3 times, I cheated this, I ignored that. I write down what I did. Why do I want to do that? Because I need to know what to correct. If I don't do that, you don't have to really, I used to write down with a notepad, because that's really the best way to do it. Because if I write it down, I know what to do the next day. If I write down at 10 a.m., I lied to my neighbor by saying something, then the next day I can go and say, I go to correct it. Either come to apologize or say, listen, I wasn't honest, I should have said that, but I have how to correct it. Now, if I don't write it down, I can guarantee to you that a week will pass and you will forget. And then you'll never be able to do tshuva over it. And then we wonder why we have all these challenges and hardships, because Hashem says, listen, you don't know how to do tshuva, I'll help you do tshuva. But if I write down everything that I did, I lied, I cheated, I owe that person money, I didn't behave nice to that person, I screamed to that person, I am able to come the next day when I'm relaxed and say, okay, let me see how I'm doing tshuva. So I write down what I did. This is kind of going through my midot, and I'm doing what's called cheshbon nefesh. I'm doing an account to my behavior, that I can do tshuva. Excuse me?
So do you do this before you say the Shema?
Better to do it before you say Kriyat Shema L'Amita. You take a minute or 2 out of your life. And I know a lot of people say, what? 2 minutes out of my life? You out of your mind? So yes, you take 2 minutes out of your life and you sit down, doesn't matter where, your bed, on your desk, in your living room. Take a piece of paper like you're doing now and say, you know what, in the morning I screamed at my kid. I wasn't really nice. Doesn't matter right now if I'm right or not. And here I lied and I did this. You write everything that you do. If you're looking at it in a very physical level, you know what you need to do tshuva for. You know who you need to apologize. You know where to come and fix the situation. If you want to look at it in a little bit more of a sensitive way, when I do that, that's when I overpower my fears. Why? Because I'm refining my midot. I'm taking my attributes and I refine that. Because if I lied, then the midah of emet is not so good. If I find myself that I lied today, my attribute of emet, truth, something's wrong there because I was able to lie. And if I was angry today and I bursted in screaming at my wife or my neighbor or my kid, means my midah of kas needs to be refined. Now, if my midah is not refined, I will have fear. That's how it works. If I refine my midot, eventually I'm not going to have fear. I will be able to pull out this emunah from the depth of my neshama, and I will not have fear. I'm not going to be afraid of anything. I have 100% emunah in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The way to do that is to refine my midot. And when's the best time to do it? You can do it 50 times a day. You don't have to do it in Kriyat Shema L'Midah. But since we're busy during the day, so I push it all the way to the end of the day. You designate 2-3 minutes out of your life to write down how your day was. And this is one way of doing your tikkun midot, that you're saying, okay, I need to refine my anger, I need to refine my honesty, I need to refine my patience, and so forth. Now, when I'm do that, that's when I'm able to overpower my fear. So try that, you can put that to the test. Now, in regards to the Korban Pesach, on the 10th day of Nisan, that's when they tied it. That's when they were able to fix their fear from Mitzrayim by facing the situation. That's how they were able to leachnia, to subdue the power of impurity. Why? By overpowering their fear. And that's brought down in the Zohar, that the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that by them doing the action of tying the animal and overpowering their fear, that's how they were able to subdue the power of the klipa, the power of impurity. Now, I told you the two animals that were kosher to do Korban Pesach. Your husband is out if you want to. The Korban Pesach was very specific. They couldn't do it with a bull or with a cow. Had to be either with a sheep or either with a goat. And the sheep and the goat, it comes from two reasons. There are two main midot that we, when I'm saying we, our souls come from. One of them is chesed, one of them is gvura. We see it in many different places, like in Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. One comes from gvura, one comes from chesed. All of us are originated through one of these attributes, either gvura or either chesed. I heard many times that I'm just what I'm heard. Don't quote me. I heard that some people say the Sfardis come from gvura and the Ashkenaz come from chesed. I heard it the other way around, because a lot of people say, why do we have the Ashkenaz and the Sfaradi? Not because we like to fight, rather because there are two groups of souls. One comes from the side of chesed, one comes from the side of gvura. The souls that come, no, that's what I heard. I mean, it could be that there's something to it. I just said that because a lot of people wonder, why do we have Ashkenazi and Sfaradi? People ask me questions, I tell them, according to the Sfaradi we do like this, according to the Ashkenazi we do like that. Why do we have to have two? Why can't we have one? Why can't we just cancel the whole thing and have one? The reason is because our souls come from different places. And since they come from a different place, they come with a different character trait. And I don't want to make a sidetrack to talk about the Ashkenazim and the Sfaradim, but the reality is that our souls come with different character traits. The reason I'm telling you that is because the souls that came from the side of Gvura, they would sacrifice a goat. Because a goat in Hebrew called Ez. Ez comes from azut, from Gvura, from severity, from strictness. So they would sacrifice the goat. The souls that come from the tzad of Chesed, they would sacrifice the sheep. Sheep or lamb, it's the same thing. Now, when they would sacrifice the goat, the souls that come from tzad of Gvura, they would do tikkun in the Gvurot. The souls that come from tzad of Chesed, they would do tikkun of the Chasadim, that they were able to do the tikkun. How can I know more or less with me what's more dominating? If I have a problem with anger, with what's called hakpada, to be jealous at somebody, to judge somebody the wrong way, all these emotions, most likely my soul is coming from, there's too much gvurot, it's coming from the side of gvura, of severity. If I have, for example, a very high sensitivity to all sorts of desires, and I'm very controlled by all sorts of te'avot, of desires, most likely my neshama comes from a lot of too much chasadim, that I give in to every little thing. Some people, they might have a problem with anger, or they can't control themselves, but when it comes to te'avot, for desires, they have 100% control. They know how to control it. They're not going to go to that extra cookie. So when they were sacrificing one or the other, it was able to sweeten, to do tikkun, either in the gvorot or either in the chasadim. Now, how has that got to do with us? Now, in this parasha, and in the concept when they left Mitzrayim, there is a verse that says that when they went out of Mitzrayim, that the dogs did not bark. V'lo yecharatz kelev leshono. And what is that going to do with the dogs? The Zohar explains that there's a very powerful klipa that is called klipat kelev. The klipa of kelev. What is the klipa of kelev? Kelev in English is a dog, but in Hebrew, kelev can be read as kulo lev. All of it is just heart. It's just heart. And this is a very, very, very powerful klipa that we suffer from that. This klipa is controlling us. That it's all about the excitement that we get. That the love and the excitement that we get into some avera. That we have too much heart going into it. Now, when the emotion is way too strong, that it doesn't let the person go out of his position. That's why I told you before, that when I'm stuck in my Mitzrayim, why am I stuck in Mitzrayim? Because the klipa of kelev is way too powerful. So I cannot control my desire to these cookies right now. Because I get too much excitement, or not necessarily excitement, but I get too much enjoyment out of this thing. So this is something small I'm saying about a cookie, and it might sound ridiculous or funny to you. Some people, if they don't get their 3 bars of chocolate that day, they can't function. And I'm not saying it in a not nice way. I mean, it's something that I derive a lot of pleasure out of it. And it can be a cookie, can be chocolate, can be a TV show that I cannot live off without it. Today there's a new manifestation to it. It's Facebook. People are like, they're like hooked on it. They can't get off it. 2-3 hours. It's the same thing, the same nonsense. And why? Because there's some type of pleasure coming out of it. A funny movie, a funny video, or something. Or just, people say, no, I need it to unwind, to separate it from the harsh reality of the world. So I need to be glued to a screen and see something. Doesn't matter how you will explain it. This is losing control on something that gives me some type of pleasure. This is the klipa of kelev. That kelev, again, kulo lev, lev is a heart, that it's all about the heart. What am I getting? The excitement that I get from that. Some people, they're hooked on movies. They have to see the certain movie all the time. It gives them a certain excitement. It's, in essence, it's nonsense. It doesn't give them anything. This klipa, that's the klipa that was controlling them in Mitzrayim, that was not letting them go out of the Mitzrayim. This is the klipa that I battle. If I have a certain Mitzrayim, something that limits me, that I can't go out from, it's because of this klipa. And on Pesach, when they left Mitzrayim, that's when the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to say, pulled the plug out, so the dogs did not bark. It wasn't physical dogs. The Mitzrayim, they didn't have poodles there. They were barking as they were going out. The Kadosh Baruch Hu cancelled, so to say, this klipa of kelev. So they were able to go out of their limitation. Now, if a person is too connected to his habits, he needs to break this klipa. And the thing is that we are creatures of habits. That if I don't have my cup of coffee in the morning, and if I don't have this coffee till 11 o'clock in the morning, I'll kill somebody for this cup of coffee. I mean, not me. I'm just saying some people, if they don't get their habit, they'll go crazy. Now, some people, it's very, very severe, and it's already coming to drugs. If they don't get their drug, then they can't function. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about a narcotic drug. Half this world is on drugs. Whether it's antidepressants or whatever it is, if they don't get their fix, they go out of their clean. That's a habit. I mean, forget about now, I know people argue, no, the body needs it. That's a whole different, I'm not talking about now the body being addicted to it. I'm talking right now on the habit. So some places some people it's very severe with a drug. Other people it will be something very small with their coffee or with their whatever daily fix that they have. The point is that we're creatures of habits, and if something changes in my habit, I lose my balance. I have to have my seder. So the point is that I have to break this habit. This whole concept of Yetziat Mitzrayim is by breaking my habit. And I need to take this entire concept and break my habits, to go out of my limitation. This is what's called Bitul Klipat HaKelev. I have to cancel this Klipa of Kelev. Now if I take everything together, how is that relating to me? So I have here Rosh Chodesh, I have here a Korban Pesach, and I have here a Klipa that is called Kelev that is controlling me, that doesn't let me go out of my habits. I need to understand that there's no such a thing as a habit, because every 3 seconds there's a rebirth. Everything is brand new. I technically should get rid of all my habits every 3 seconds. Why? Because constantly there's hitchachut, there's rebirth, renewity. But for whatever reason, I'm rolling over all my habits from the previous section. I need to know where to cut this line and say, no, wait, every day is a rebirth. Every day is new. Every day. I wake up in the morning and I say thank you to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a new day. Everything is brand new. I'm just hooked by this klipa on this habits that I had from the day before. So the concept of Rosh Chodesh is I have to tap into the concept of hitchachut, of the renewity, and to understand that every second I can renew the situation, I can reset it. Now you take the example you take now, the phones that you have, is a function that it says to bring it to factory setting. You reset the entire phone and it brings the phone to factory setting. So I can do that every day. Every day I can reset my settings, so to say, that I annul all these habits. I go out of my Mitzrayim. One of the ways how I want to do it is with this Korban Pesach. Now I don't really do Korban Pesach. Bezrat Hashem, maybe this year we'll have Bet HaMikdash, we will do Korban Pesach. The concept of the Korban Pesach is that I take my fears and I tie them. And when I take my fear and I tie it, like the Korban Pesach, then I overpower and I subdue my fear. I control the klipa. Instead of letting the klipa control me, I control the klipa. And how do I do that? I told you, I have to work on myself. When I work on myself, I'll overpower my fear. When I overpower my fear will disappear, my emunah will come out. That's very simple. I have fear because I don't have emunah. I don't have emunah because I don't know how to control this renewity.
Because your soul's dirty in a way.
Forget about the soul is dirty or not. It's a cycle. Of course the soul is dirty. If I do bad things, my soul will get spiritually dirty. I want to know how is that to do with me, and how do I apply it to my life. The bottom line is I less care about the nice stories. I want tools to apply to my life. And I know on myself that I lack emunah. Because if I had 100% emunah, I will be Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And I will not have fear and I will not have worries. I'm not going to have anything. So if I have all these negative things in me, means my emunah is buried way too deep. If my emunah is buried too deep, one of the ways it will come out, I will have fears. I will have disbelief. I want to know how to reverse it right now. So I want to tap into this motion of itchachut. The Arizal tells me every 3 seconds there's a rebirth of everything. I want to know how to tap into it. One of the first things that I need to do, I need to reach to the levels of the depth of my soul to pull out the emunah. And the way to do that, hold on, then you can ask a few questions. The way to do that is that I need to pull the belief out of the depth where it's stuck in it. It is a cycle. Now if you're looking at the order of Pesach, then first of all, when we're talking about the Korban Pesach, first of all, I am commanded about it. Then on Yud Ben Nisan, they tied the Korban, the sacrifice. Then on the 14th day of Nisan, they burnt it, and then the 15th they ate it. If you're looking at the order of Pesach, after that, There's 7 weeks till they got the Torah. Why didn't Hashem come and say, let's forget about this Hollywood production, don't need all these plagues, let me just take you in one shot straight to Har Sinai? Why? I mean, Hashem can do anything that He wants. Why did the plagues have to take a whole year? Then they had to go out of Mitzrayim. Then they had to wait 7 weeks. Then they only then got the Torah. Why does Hashem did this whole show? Okay, so we know that the plagues were done in order to show the entire world the power of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and etc., etc. We're not going to get into that. I want to understand why they're pulling it. Why, even after they went out of Mitzrayim, why they had to wait 7 weeks. The point I want to take from that is that they had to, what's called lachzik ma'amad, just to keep their head up. Technically, they should have said, hey, you took us out of Mitzrayim, give us the Torah right now. So yes, I know the argument that they had to be cleansed and refined and they had to work on themselves. But really this time length was to teach us that I have to keep my head up. In Hebrew it's called lachzik ma'amad. Just how do you say survive? Just, how do you say it in English, lachzik ma'amad? Just fight through it. So in our life, we have these periods of challenges, of hardship, of chas v'shalom, a very bad physical diagnosed. Hashem says, I just need you to keep your head up. Just hold on. This is called lachzik ma'amad. Lachzik is to hold, ma'amad is to hold your level. So this all comes to tell me that I have to keep my head up. I will have situations and challenges in my life, and I right away lose my emunah. I lose my faith. Because, wow, this is a very bad thing going on now. Right away I will go back, the klippah will have control over me because it feeds off my fear. What is my fear? My fear is not necessarily waking up in the middle of the night and being all shaking. My fear is that the doctor tells me, this is the situation, now I'm afraid. Why are you afraid? That's what Hashem wants. Now I don't have money, I'm afraid. Where am I going to get food from? Where am I going to get this? This is fear. Fear is not being afraid of a mouse. I'm talking that I don't have emunah, that I'm afraid. Where am I going to get my food? Where am I going to get my health? Where am I going to get this? How is this going to be solved? This is the fear. So it's all one this cycle. If the person brings all the power of emunah out, they have no fear. They trust the Kadosh Baruch Hu 100% because they believe that constantly there's this concept of hitchadshut, of renewity. So what was bad yesterday, today, can disappear out of the window, just like that. We create 90% of our problems because we feed off it instead of saying, no, Hashem can make it disappear like that. Whatever the doctor said can disappear. Whatever the physical situation is, I don't have money now, tomorrow I find a job, my problem solved. The point to take from that is that the concept is that I'm stuck in my limitation and I'm creating 90% of my problems because I'm stuck in my limitation. I need to break this klippah of the kelev, of my breaking my habits. How do I do that? I do it with small things. I can't do it with the big things. So if I have a habit to have 3 cups of coffee, then I'm going to start breaking my habit and I'm going to have 2 cups of coffee. And if I can't do that, then my habit is to have coffee at 11. Today I'm having my coffee at 12. 1 hour. I'm going to, you're laughing, but 1 hour I'm going to fight my habit. And today I'm going to have my coffee at 2.
That's hard.
And it's very hard. And today I'm going to have my coffee, instead of 2 spoons of sugar, it's going to be 1.5 spoons of sugar. So I break my habits in the small level, but what do? I control the minister that is in the world above. I tie him like the Korban Pesach. I control my fear. Because I'm afraid if I'm not going to have my coffee right now, I'm afraid I'm not going to be myself. So to take all that together, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, I am going to put you through challenges. I am going to put you in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. I need you to go out of your limitation. I need you to overpower your fear. I need you to believe in the power of renewity, that I can change everything in one shot. And you can only do that when you have belief. Pull out your belief from the depth of your neshama, and then keep your head up high. As long as the challenge has to be a year, it's going to be a year. It's not going to change. Keep your head up high. With emunah, with having belief. The challenge has to be 2 years, the challenge is going to be 2 years. The challenge has to be a month, it's going to be a month. You're not going to change everything if you have disbelief. You're not going to change anything if you worry and if you have fear. If you know all this in one shot, then most likely the challenge will disappear. Most likely, unless that's what has to happen, and then you have to keep your head up high with a positive energy that it's going to pass. And it has nothing to do, should not put me into fear or disbelief or anger or anything else. All this, if I lay down all this is how I want to start preparing for Pesach. By start analyzing the situation. The next week I have Rosh Chodesh. Then I have Yud Nisan. Then I'm getting ready for Pesach. Why do I want to do that? Why is that my preparation? Because on Pesach, when I tap into it, and I already prepared myself, on Pesach I'm going to get the Superman powers to be able to carry with me the rest of the year to actually apply it. So that's what I want to concentrate on. That's what you need to take from today. That's what you need to start preparing, because Rosh Chodesh Nisan is already next week. We're going to continue learning. You have enough homework what to start doing. And Bezrat Hashem, this Pesach we will offer the sacrifice of Korban Pesach in Bet HaMikdash.